Hello and good morning. I'm Natalie and welcome back to Papercraft. So, just going to turn the mic up a little bit. I know that some people have been having volume issues, so we'll see how that goes. Okay, so last time round we did all the design work for creating a mini album. And I showed you how we can use tiling. So I've used a few other ways when I've actually gone through and done the production. So I'm going to cover those as I go through so that you can see how you can work with it in lots of different ways. So firstly, we have our grey board outer. Okay, and because of how I did it, I actually have two spines. Now, if you are going to be using a ring binding of some sort, this is going to be perfect for you. So you would do your ring binding through one of the spines, and then we'll stick the two together to kind of cover that back section so we get a nice smooth finish on the outside. Now what I am going to do, just because it's really distracting, is I'm going to turn off the little camera on the ScanNCut, which is being a bit poorly at the moment. There we go. So don't be afraid to say hi and let me know that you're watching, and I will answer any questions that you have as we go through. So as I said, I've got two spines. I'm going to set one to one side as I'm going to be sticking everything in. And let's go through what else I've cut so far. Morning, Thea. So I've cut my inner end paper, and because I've worked with A4 card for this particular one to get the right size, then what I've done is, instead of just doing a tiling and just sticking it together just to extend that little bit on the end, I've done it into contrasting colours, and then for the moment I've just tacked it with some double-sided at the top and bottom. Okay, and it has an overlap of 10mm, so that we can measure that, give ourselves a little guide to work to, and then we can stick that on. So if I bend that slightly, you can see I've got a little guideline there. So in case I didn't say already, morning Thea, morning Deb, and I'm going to presume that Mum is there somewhere. I thought you were calling me Mum. Not many people call me that. Okay, so onto our outer cover. So this is going to be one that's going to wrap around the front and back. And again, my paper that I've chosen isn't quite big enough. These are 12 by 12 pads, and you need about a 12 by 16 to do the entire cover in one go. So what I did is, again, I used the tiling function, use the overlap function, so I've marked the overlap on both pieces so you can see how much of that gap you get. Okay, and that's entirely sealed with double-sided tape from top to bottom. Morning, Carol, nice to see you, and hello, Lucy. Yeah, Mum's comments haven't come through to say that she's watching, so I'll presume that Mum's there. Hi, Mum. Hi, Linda. Okay, so a couple of things to mention before I go any further. If you wanted to add a little bit of piping in here, you could do either freehand, or if you want to get the ScanNCut to cut that, that's fine. And also bear in mind where your join is. So because I used the directional pattern, I had to do kind of a bit of mental arithmetic to try and work out which way this was going on the mat to get it up the right way. So in my case, it was a case of it had to go that way, and then putting the join here so that that ends up on the front. So that is going to fold round like that, and then we'll have a nice join there. Okay, so let's start to assemble. Now I have got the offcut section from my grey board so that I can actually do a little bit of a spine measurement there if I need to. And I'm going to set my pieces to one side for a moment, just so that I can mark myself a centre line. So I'm going to do this on my straight edge, and I'm going to have a bit of a problem with this ruler because it's not quite long enough. So I am going to do it by eye a little bit. You don't have to if you're not confident. Get the longer ruler. Don't do it, Natty. Okay, I'm going to mark it at the 6-inch mark, because then I know that's the middle of the ruler. And again, 6-inch. If you have a T-square at this point, it's quite handy to have that so that you can just double check that they're too long or not. Now, when you're doing this particular line, you don't want to be too heavy. It's just there for a reference while we're sticking the spine. Okay, now we're going to get our spine piece, and we're going to do the same again. So our spine piece is about 14 mil, so we can mark it at 7. And we'll do the same with the other end. You don't have to draw a line down this time, but as long as you've got that mark there, you can line that up to your line on your cover, like so. So as long as we know that this mark here is lined up with the pencil line, this mark here is lined up with the pencil line, we know that that is straight as straight can be. Okay. Next thing you want to check is that you're in the middle this way around. So just going to rotate. Okay. So just over 5 inches is our centre line. And let's do the same for our spine. I'm not worried about doing it both sides, it's just to make sure that we get that vertical alignment right. So we're on about 8 1/4, so therefore 4 1/8 for our centre line, and we should be good to go. So get that lined up there, lined up there, lined up there. So that's where we're aiming for. Now you've got options now. You can either decide that you're going to go entirely with wet glue and then let this dry, but obviously at this particular time I'm live, so I'm going to be wanting to move on to the next bit. So I'm going to do a little bit double-sided just to cheat. And then for longevity, we can actually just add a little bit of gel medium to our tape. And press that down well. Peel that off. Get our glue. Now, hopefully this won't be too bunged. It's been a few days, so let's give it a good clean. I will reply to your message in a bit though. Okay, so and do a little wiggle just to kind of spread that out a little bit. Okay. Rotate over. Get that middle section lined up first, then we can work on the ends. And there's our spine. And we're all set. First bit first. So, we know that when we set up the artwork, we had enough room to allow for this gap in here when we did the cover design, so we can use that as a guide. So I'm just going to offer that over the top, and that's going to give me my distance. I'm not worried about having it fully seated, as long as it's most of the way there, you'll be all right. And then we can place in our grey board cover like so. And all things being good, should be a nice straight line too. So, next little tip is, if you are working on a project like this where you're doing large areas of glue, then my top tip would be to put your glue onto your grey board rather than your paper, and you're going to save yourself getting lots of wrinkles. Now, the good news is that most wrinkles that you have when you're doing any kind of paper onto card will dry out eventually, but it's better if you don't have to wait for that to happen in the first place. So I'm just using a water-based glue because most of the sticking is actually going to be done inside. This is just going to kind of hold it nicely to our grey board. Now, if you have any questions from last week when we did all the setup, don't be afraid to ask. I did do a few alterations just for cutting it on 12 by 12 as opposed to going on the 12 by 24. Okay, so I'm just going to line that back up. Check that your grey board's still hooked over your spine, and then we can get that in place. We're going to give a good press down. Now, as I said, if you start to find it's curling up and whatnot, don't panic just yet. Your little picture is a little fuzzy. Is that just yours? I have no idea. If anybody else has it a little bit fuzzy, can you let me know, and I'll see if I can either increase the resolution here, or it might just be my internet again. I'm hoping not, because, well, yeah. Last time the internet service provider said, sorry, there's nothing we can do for you. It's like, oh, thank you. So I'm going to do the same again with this one. Give your bottle a squeeze so we're getting a good mat of glue out. Grey board is very porous, so hence the wrinkles will come out nicely, usually. But I do prefer a water-based glue for this step. I just find it just works that little bit better rather than the gel medium. And my glue has a little roller in it too, which helps. There we go. So, up and over. And press that down. I'll cut your ear later, Luke. Cheeky. There we go. Have it full screen on my iPad. On an iPad it should look fantastic. Oh. It's no good. I'm going to have to start recording these at the same time as going live, because then I can upload the HD version after. That way it doesn't rely on our internet quite so much. Okay, So I'm just going to flip that over and give that a good press down. Okay. Now, I've used the Funky Pen grey board, which the ScanNCut is happy cutting. So if you want to double up with that, you can do, so that you get a super thick cover. Are they on Twitch? Yes, we should be on Twitch. Okay. So then that's going to go up and over to make our book, so we can start to see where we're heading. Now, before I go any further, what I'm going to do is also give my cover a little bit of reinforcement. Now, how you choose to do that, it's up to you. But I am just going to use a little bit of fabric tape. So, some people I know like to use things like micropore and stuff, but I'm just going to use fabric tape. Doesn't add too much bulk, and plus with this one, because it's going to be under our end paper, we don't have to worry quite so much about it losing stick. Now, if you are doing something where you have this bit showing instead of having the paper over the top, I would suggest is number one, have wider tape, and number two, use a little bit of wet glue underneath so that we can kind of have that for longer. Now it's just starting to go off course a bit, so I'm just going to lift it, peel it back. As I said, it's quite forgiving because it's, you know, fabric, and we're just going to make sure that sticks down well inside our cover too, because it's there to support that. Now let's just trim these ends and we should be good to go. A bit more. There we go. Oh, it is on Facebook. So, there we go. Next one. A bit more. Okay. So the fabric tape has like a paper backing to it. So it's one of those ones where you want nails. But you can get them in lots of different widths. I used to get a lot of mine from the pound shop. There we go. So that's going to sit in there, and it's going to kind of reinforce that spine, so we're keeping it for future generations. Okay, so far so good. Now what we need to do is we need to actually wrap these edges around so that they're ready to stick down. So first of all, what I tend to do, I'll get my bone folder and just trace around that edge with your bone folder first of all. So with the pointy end, just give it a good press down. Now you're going to see here that our paper has plenty of a gap between the edge of the grey board and where it's cut. And that's going to allow that paper to wrap around that corner without any of that grey board being visible. I'm going to start from the middle and work outwards. So lifting that up. So if I just do that again, from the centre out, from the centre out. We can then take it over again. So to start with, we're going to do that with our fingers, so it's starting to learn that fold. But then when we're actually sticking, we're going to do that with our bone folder. So just take your time, no rush. Okay. So now that we've done that bit, we can do our tape and our glue. So again, because I'm working at speed, I'm going to use both double-sided and a little bit of glue. If you have plenty of time to do it, then you can go wet glue only, place it under something heavy and just let everything kind of pull together. Okay. Now, where we've got our dent for our gap in our spine, you're going to find that your double tape is kind of floating over the top. So, to save it crinkling, I'm just going to do a little bit of a cut just there and there. Just press that in, because we're going to be pressing into these sections here with our colour paper, so that that's nicely sealed down. Okay. Press it down well, and let's start to peel this up. So, because I've already done my fold, I'm not worried about getting the alignment correct, because it should already be there. So let's get this up. Okay, now in terms of which glue to use, you can use gel medium or you can use your paper glue for this. But I'm just going to go in with some gel medium. Firstly on our double-sided tape, and then a little bit beyond it. So you're going to notice I'm not being particularly fussy about getting this perfect in terms of where I'm spreading it. I'm going to let my fingers do the spreading. So start with that middle section. Now middle and out. Okay. Now we're going to use the flat rounded bit of our bone folder, and we're going to press that down. So I'm going along the edge with that kind of angle to make sure that we're getting a nice crisp edge. Then flat across the top. I know it's a bit difficult to see, but flat across the top just to get that fold crisp there. Then we'll go up a bit to go along that top edge. Then finally we're going to flip, so we're back to our angled section here, and that is going to go into our fold there. So don't be tempted to push up, we're just going to pull down, so that way we don't accidentally catch that edge. Okay, so line it up, pull it down, line it up, pull it down. Okay, then once we've got that in there, we're going to use our point and just give it a good press, and you can kind of angle your bone folder in there so that we're going to get right into all those nooks and crannies. So I'm using 160 GSM paper for this cover, so we've got quite a bit give in there. Okay, so first edge done. Now what we're going to do is we're going to start work on the opposite edge. So if you've just done the top edge, we're going to go bottom, If you've done the bottom, then you're going to do top, or if you've done one of the sides, you go opposite that way. But I find it easiest to do the longest edges first and then do your short edge. Okay, back to the double-sided tape. Find the end. There we go. Press down well, get on live again, and just cut that line. Doesn't even need to be straight. And press in. Use that bone folder to get in those nooks and crannies. Like so. There we go. And peel away. It's gone very quiet out there. So I'll peel away all these little sections of tape and apply our glue. Both over and above our tape. A little bit missed there, so let's go back and just fill that in. Okay. And a little wiggle. So, I find it easier to pull these things down from the top rather than trying to push up from the bottom, so just rotate round. Okay, so down we go. And give it all a good press. And down and down the score line. Okay, now just going to get in there. Now what I would say is at 160 GSM this paper's very forgiving. If you are working with something that's a little bit thinner, then you just want to take your time and be a little lighter. I'm quite heavy-handed at the best of times. Okay. So that's good. So let's turn it around and just check our spine is folding nicely. Certainly getting there. So then when we line it, we've still got plenty of room to kind of get a card in here, because I've actually cut my liner from card rather than paper. It's just going to give it a little bit of reinforcement. Okay. So this is where it starts to get a bit tricky. So I'm going to work a little bit with the middle first of all. Then I'm going to worry about my corners. So I'm just going to give these corners in here a little bit of attention. So first of all, I'm going to use my point to kind of pull down on this little bit of excess just here. Then I'm going to use my straight edge to press and pull out. Now, my bone folder is seeing some action, so it's not perfectly straight, but you'll get the idea. So you should have something that looks like that. So you've got your depth of your card, and then it suddenly goes really thin because we've pressed that fold right in. Okay, so back to that middle, work our way out, work our way out. Now this is where I'm going to get the flat edge of my bone folder, and I'm going to drag that down. So we're making sure that we're pushing that over. Then we're going to take that down and we're going to press that fold. Now just be aware that you may have some excess glue that's squidged out, or you might have some double-sided tape just there. So just take your time. And at this point, it's good to just check that you're happy with how these corners would come together. If that's sticking out a little bit proud, you can always either repress that in here, or you can do like a double fold so that you would actually pull the edge back in a little. Same with that bottom edge, but I'm looking pretty good at that. I mean, look at that for pattern matching. That doesn't happen very often. So, now we've got a guideline of where our cover is going to come. So there's going to be a very slight overlap here. So just be aware that when we stick our double-sided tape this time, we're going to work a little bit inside. So I tend to take mine roughly in line with this edge here. Very roughly. And again, just press that down. And again, we can do our squidge glue over the top of our tape. Okay, pass the tape, and then I'm just going to do a little bit on these edges here. So line here, and up and over to the middle, then press up that way. Okay, if it doesn't quite get where you need it to, just pull it back a little. There we go. And there we go. Ta-da! Press down. Rotate. So we're going to do the same again. So press in with your point first of all, I think, just to get that mark there. There we go. And pull out. This one is a little bit tighter, so there isn't quite as much of an overlap. So there we go. Middle and up. I feel this one's been a little bit more resistant, so I'm just going to take it a little bit slower and just give it a little bit more encouragement with the bone folder just to get it straight on this edge. So things that will affect how your fold lies are like things like your direction of your paper. So you'll find it folds nicer in one direction than the other. So if you're working with a directional print sometimes, just a bit mindful of that. Now that edge there is just sticking out a little bit, not quite straight, so I'm just going to take that out. Just pull that back, like so. And then just press that down. Let's just check this bottom edge too. It's not too bad, not as bad as the top, but I will kind of push it where I want to get it. Okay. So, tape, don't forget the tape. Otherwise we'll be sat here waiting for it to dry, like We're in an elevator. I'll have to find some elevator music. No good, Lou. You're going to have to do some sound effects. Okay. So, again, normal tape. Pass the tape. Then down the end. Over we go. And even now I can feel it's kind of fighting back, so I'm just going to get that bone folder. Make it go where I want it to go. So let's pull the edge in there. There we go. So then hopefully, when we pull that up, it's looking good. Now for our pocket one, so that's been tacked at the top and bottom in case you missed this one. So it still has the 10mm overlap that the cover piece has, but it's only held at the top and bottom so that we can use it as a pocket if we want to. Okay, now we just need to decide where we want to have that pocket pointing. If you want it at the front, you're going to rotate it this way and have it like that. Here, if you want it at the back, rotate it that way. Now, personally, I think it's going to lie nicer if we have that at the back. Okay. So, we have a few ways that we can work. We could just put double-sided tape around the outside of the edges, but you could find that it's going to go a bit baggy in this spine, so I'm kind of going to go for a bit of a two-prong approach. So firstly, let's get some double-sided tape around these outside edges. Okay, now I'm going to use my cover as a very rough guide, and I'm going to just tear it off before it gets to that spine section. And let's do the same here. All will become apparent. I'm going to rotate that round. Do the same again. And again, very roughly. Just get that in the middle. Up to the spine and tear. And again, up to the spine and tear. So we've done those two long edges. Now I'm just going to do these end pieces. Okay. So I'm doing the short ends next. And finally, we're going to do our pocket piece. Okay, so our peach bit is at the back of the pocket, and that's what we're going to want to stick to our cover. If you've done it the other way around, you're going to want to stick the other piece, but I should say which collection I'm using, shouldn't I? So I'm using the Lovely Days and Fabulous Florals from Paper Boutique. So a little bit of both. So the cards are the Fabulous Florals and the papers are the Lovely Days. Okay, so we've got our double-sided tape, and next we need to have the bit that's going to stick that spine in as well. So to keep this nice and neat, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start from, let's go from about there. So inside edge of our grey board, Just get your bubbles out if you have any from your tape. Okay. Then I'm going to do one up the middle. Don't worry about your gaps just yet. And one on the next inside edge. Okay. In with our bone folder, and we're going to press that all down so it's all lying nice and flat. Okay, now we need to do the gaps. Okay, so I did say I would do a couple little announcements while I'm live. So we actually have a new online store, which is actually going to be our own. So that is plannercraft.co.uk. So we actually finally have the .co in there. So I'm going to press these in to the gaps. And on the store you will find our foil. You will find the new magazine for April. Those of you that have already paid will get that by email once I've finished here. And I will also pop that up as the last one to go on to our CF fans page as well. You'll also find the cheat sheets on our online store. And there'll be some more fun things coming to that platform fairly soon. Okay, so I've given a really good press into the valley here, so that we're going to make sure that that cover is going to be sitting really nicely against that fabric tape. And just check that everything is now going to press back down onto our first bits of tape that we applied. So just use the flat of the bone folder again. Marvellous tool, bone folder. Very useful. So now when you pull this one off, it's quite weird because obviously it's like 3D form, so it's going to crinkle lots. So just be patient. Okay, so we've revealed all of our tape, and obviously if we were to put that down as is, it's going to go with very little room for manoeuvre. So let's just make our lives a little easier, and I'm just going to go over the top with a little glue. Now, going back to our cover, we haven't got any tape at the top and bottom, but what we can do is just put in a little extra glue just to tidy up those edges when we get that far. Now, before you stick this in, make sure that you have your cover the right way up for what you want, that your pocket's to the right side, and then we're going to just place that down, and we're going to work to get that in the centre. So I'm putting my weight on the outside edges only until I know that I have it where I want it. Okay, we're looking reasonably level. So now I'm going to walk my hands to the middle point and then just press that down. Okay, don't worry about sticking the bone folder to get all these bits in here straight away. Worry about making sure that you've got your level first. Okay, so I'm going to just very gently just start to give that an idea where it's going, just because obviously we still got that wet glue in there at the moment. So I'm just going to work that in, and we're going to come back and really press into those valleys in a bit. So now we're going to lift up one edge, and I'm going to suggest that you start with the plainer edge. So if that plainer edge is the front, start with the front. If that plainer edge is the back, then go to the back. And we're going to peel away that tape top and bottom. And we can also then apply some extra glue if you want to. So you don't have to, but if you want to. Now, just for speed, I'm just going to use that tape today. And I'm just going to lie that down. Okay. Now for the other edge. So this is our pocket edge, which is going to be the more fiddly one. Because you're going to find when you try and lift it up, it's going to have that break in the middle. So just take your time. And again, we're going to do those top and bottom edges first. Okay. And we're going to peel away our two end tapes. Okay, now try to avoid pulling on this section for this one. It's going to be really, really kind of tempting to pull, thinking that you're going to get that lined up. You actually need to work from the stuck edge first. So I'm just going to let that drop and work from this bottom edge up with my fingers like so. Then we have our cover, and our pocket is just in that. Now, you want to try and keep that pocket as flat as possible so that it's not going to be pulling too much on your cover. So in terms of what you can put in there, just like a nice flat photo mat would do lovely. Okay, so what time are we on? God blimey, time's rattling by. I thought it'd be a miracle if what I've cut is going to last that long, to be honest, but oh well. I was hoping to at least get some of the cover decoration done, but we'll see. Yeah. There's always part 3. So I'm just using the straight edge to follow along those edges of our grey board. And once you're happy, you can start to get a little bit more. Because I'm right-handed, I'm going to work up against that right-hand edge, or the left side of the gap, depending on which way you want to kind of describe it. Okay. Make sure we get all the way in there. Gonna wiggle it. There we go. And now we can start to actually give it a good bend. Now, if as you're doing this, you're seeing a few little areas that are bubbling up, so you're not getting quite crisp finish, just hold it up so that you've got your hand on the spine. And we're just going to go and just press it very carefully into that gap there. Now, in some places you're going to find that easier to do with the pointed section of your bone folder, and others you might want to use the straight one. That's something that you kind of develop over time and experience. Okay, next fold, I'm going to do the same again. So again, there's still a section there I'm not quite happy with. So in we go. And we have our journal cover. Now, the more you work it, the nicer that edge is going to be. So just give it a little bit of a open and close, just to kind of get that fold knowing where it's going. Let's clear away some of these tapes. I will fill my little desk bin with those in a minute. So, next, what have I done? So, towards the end of the first part video, I showed you a way that we could use to adhere our pages in, where we did the extra glue tab. So what I've done is I've cut two of those and I've actually stuck them together using the tab. So that's going to create like the end papers on my book, and then everything else we can actually put into this spine. Okay, so it saves us actually attaching that directly into our cover. So I'm just going to get myself some more double-sided tape, and we're going to go down the edge. So into this you could be putting, you know, lined paper if you want to. You don't have to use scrapbook paper. You could make it into a little notebook. So if you saw Naomi's notebooks, I think, and you could do something like that using the same process. Okay, so I've done a little bit of glue just on these end sections here. Let's see if we can get that to pick that up a little bit. There we go. Just because you can't get tape on those edge bits, then you just need a little bit on here. Okay. Decide which colour you want at the front, which one you want at the back. So I'm just going to kind of offer up to this back panel where we've got two colours, and just decide which contrasts better. So I think I'm going to go with it that way round, and I'm going to aim to get this in the middle. So you're going to kind of want to just take your time getting that all lined up. And that's why we use wet glue, so that we have that time. Then when you're happy, you're just going to press that down. So at the moment we've got this white inside bit, and where do you go from there? Well, once you've made your signature, or several signatures in this case, then what you're going to do is you're going to want to cut another one of these pages, but this time it's going to be the one where we have the two scallop shapes, and that's going to hold your pages in. So let's just check that's all sitting where it should do. Not bad. So I have got a little bit of room in the back in mine where I can actually put like a waterfall or something on this back section. So we'll see how that goes. And then on this front section, I'm going to keep that fairly flat so that we're not distorting our cover. Okay. Then in your inside pages, if you are doing something where you have stitch signatures, you're going to keep your decoration fairly flat. If you're just going to cut some more of these shaped pages with the glue tabs, just make sure that your glue tabs are a little bit narrower for your next pages and so on and so forth as you go through. That's going to give you a little bit more room for dimensional decoration. So I hope you've enjoyed that hour, and I hope you have a cover ready for our next stage. So for next week, your challenge is to have your cover completed up to this point and hopefully decorated on the front as well. So what I will do is at some point I will pop up what I do on the front so that you can see my decoration. So take care and thank you for joining me, and it's been lovely to have you. If you do have any questions or want to catch up, then drop me a line. You know where to find me. Take care for now, and bye. Yeah, he's gorgeous. Thank you. So I'll go now. Yes, definitely have a try with grey board, because I will cover grey board in a bit more depth, but what you can do with grey board is actually quite amazing, because you can cut multiple layers, so you're almost like 3D printing with your ScanNCut, and you can actually create some really solid structures with your grey board. So if that's the sort of thing that you're interested in, then do let me know, and I will certainly show that on a stream or something, because you can build up a bit like a jigsaw puzzle so that you get really solid objects that then you can use with other materials like resin. Lovely resin. But so far so good, and as I said, I will carry on and just start my decoration for my cover, just so that you don't have to kind of sit and watch me do all that. But if there's anything in the meantime that you see that I've done that you just need a little bit more help on, just drop me a message. Or if there's a project you're struggling with, a bit like the notebook the other day. So take care and bye.